My name is David Fleming, and this is the Disciples Ignited YouTube channel. Now, in this series, Learning to Pray Like Jesus, we've been studying the Lord's Prayer from Matthew chapter 6. And this week, we're looking at Matthew chapter 6, verse 11, where Jesus told us to pray, "Give us today our daily bread." So let's look at that together. Matthew chapter 6, verses 9 through 11. "This then is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread." Today we're going to see how God answered this prayer in the Old Testament as he led the children of Israel through the wilderness on their way to the promised land. In the Old Testament book of Exodus, we learn how the Lord provided the Israelites their daily bread, which they called manna. Let me read it to you from Exodus chapter 16, verses 4 and 5 that tells us all about it. "Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they will follow my instructions. On the sixth day, they are to prepare what they bring in, and that will be twice as much as they gather on the other days." Wow, this event teaches us so much. First of all, it reveals that the Lord is going to provide for our daily needs. Listen to verse 4 again. "I will rain down bread from heaven for you." And that's exactly what the Lord did. But it also stresses that the Lord is going to get us involved. Listen to the latter part of verse 4. The people are to go out each day and gather enough for that day. So when Jesus was teaching us to pray for our daily needs to be met, he is also implying from the Old Testament instructions that the Lord is going to get us involved in the process. What did the Lord have the Israelites do? They had to go out and gather that which the Lord provided. But it also emphasizes the role that faith has in this whole process of God meeting our daily needs and how he gets us involved in the process of our needs being met. Listen to verse 20. "However, some of them paid no attention to Moses. They kept part of it until morning, but it was full of maggots and began to smell, so Moses was angry with them." What is that all about? Well, you see, when the people would go out and gather that bread daily, they saw that there was so much bread to be gathered that some of them just began to gather more than they needed. And that's exactly what the Lord told them not to do. You only gather as much as you need daily. He wanted them to have faith that God was going to meet their needs the very next day. And so when they gathered more than what they needed, it turned moldy and smelly and got full of maggots. They weren't living by faith. And so they gathered as much as they needed every single day, believing that God was going to meet their needs the next day. Oh, but there's more that we need to learn from this. When Jesus told us to pray, "Give us today our daily bread," he's not telling us that we can pray for whatever we want. He's telling us to pray for what we need. So before you start asking God to give you $1 million, let's see what else the Word of God has to teach us about the right frame of mind towards God's meeting our needs. Let me present to you Proverbs chapter 30, verses 8 and 9, where the proverb says, "Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God." This, my friend, is so practical. It emphasizes the need to depend on God. Verse 8 tells us, "Give me only my daily bread." It stresses balance. Give me neither poverty nor riches. And it reveals how money so easily causes us to go astray. In verse 9, the proverb says, "Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, 'Who is the Lord?' Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God." You see, brothers and sisters, when Jesus taught us to pray, "Give us today our daily bread," we've got to see it from his perspective. Jesus wants our needs to be met, but he also wants us to have a proper perspective toward the riches of this world. Jesus is going to take care of those who put him first, as we're told in Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, where Jesus said, "Seek first God's kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." But there's so much more to learn from the Lord's Prayer. So join me tomorrow and we'll learn some more.